Okay, let's get started. Yesterday we were in the middle of an Agadata. We're going to see some fascinating Agadata, which really requires a couple of weeks to unpack, but we're going to run through it in a half an hour. The Gemara describes the back and forth conversation between the nations of the world, the idolatrous nations of the world, who at the end of days, whether this is Yemos HaMashiach or Olam Haba, it's not so clear from the Gemara, but they're going to confront Hashem and say, hey, how come, the Jews end up at the top and all of us are pushed to the side? It's not fair. You never gave us the opportunity. You didn't bring us to Har Sinai. And we rejected all of that yesterday. The Gemara said, what are you talking about? Hashem offered the Torah to the other nations, and they refused it. And not only that, but Hashem told them to fulfill the Shiva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, and they failed to do that as well. So what kind of complaint could they have that they didn't have a chance? So the Gemara says, you're right. So at the end of the day, the Gemara then says that really, Elakach Omrim Ha'ovdei Kolchavim Lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But this is the real grievance or complaint that they lodged before Hashem. Ribono shel Olam Yisrael shekibeluha heichen kiyamuha. What about the Jewish people, Ribono shel Olam? They didn't fulfill the Torah. Why should they be on top? Why should they be ascendant, the victors, if they don't deserve it? So Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu ani meid bahem shekiyamu es haTorah kula. I will testify, says Hashem, that in every generation the Jews fulfilled the entire Torah. Now, what is this debate? They either did or they didn't. So there's a lot of ways to understand this. I think the nations are probably pointing to those sections of Klal Yisrael that didn't observe the Torah. Hashem is pointing to the segments that did observe the Torah. So what are they arguing about? It could be that Hashem is saying that even those segments who didn't observe the Torah only were not unable to see the light because of their oppression and persecution. Perhaps that's one way of explaining it. But in any event, Omrim Lefanav Ribbono Shel Olam Klum Yeshav Shemein Al Beno. But they're going to say to Hashem, how can you testify? How can a father testify for his children? It's not admissible testimony. D'chsiv B'ni B'chori Yisrael, as it says, my firstborn son Israel. Amar Lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shemayim V'aretz Ya'idu Bahem Shekimu Es HaTorah Kula. Okay, fine, you don't want my testimony. So we'll use the testimony of heaven and earth. They will testify that the Jews have observed the Torah. Omrim lefanav ribono shel olam shamayim va'aretz nogim be'edusan. But they're parties of interest. They're prejudiced in their testimony. How do I know? Shenamar imlo brisi yomam v'layla chuko shamayim va'aretz lo samti. There's a pasuk in Tehillim that says that Yirmiyah, if not for my covenant that is extant both day and night through the study of Torah, that is studied day and night, then all the laws of physics, the laws of heaven and earth would not endure. In other words, the only reason why Hashem causes the natural world to endure is because of Torah study. So how can heaven and earth testify objectively that the Jews fulfilled the Torah if their whole existence is reliant on the Jews' Torah? So therefore, they're not acceptable witnesses. And furthermore, it's the only day of creation where it says ha. All of the other days are Yom Echad, Yom Sheni. This is Yom HaShishi. Why the sixth? He says the answer is because this is an allusion to the sixth day of Sivan that will take place in several hundred years hence, that God will take the Jews to Har Sinai, and he basically, when he created the world, he basically created it on condition. He said, if the Jewish people accept the Torah 2,500 years from now, then I will allow the world to endure. But if not, I'm just going to return everything to chaos and void because there's no point to this creation. And V'chein Omar Chizkiya, Mai Dichsiv Mishmaim Hishmata Din Eretz Yara V'Shakta. In a similar vein, There's a pasuk in Tehillim that says, "From the heavens you made your judgment known," which is referring to the Torah, and the earth was fearful, and then it was quiet and tranquil. So the question is, Im yara lama shakta, vim shakta lama yara. Why first to be fearful and then to be silent? Like, what's going on? So ela batchila yara labasov shakta. The answer is that initially heaven and earth were like schwitzing. What's going to happen in the year 24 or 48? Will the Jews accept the Torah or not?
It was like Y2K.
Right. It was. We didn't know what was going to happen.
We all
right?
thought
The world's going to end. Yeah.
Years going to crash.
So Baruch Hashem, it all worked out, and so therefore there was tranquility. So Amar Lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mikem Yavo v'Yudu Ben B'Yisol Shekimu Satorah Kula. So Hashem says, okay, fine. I'm not kosher for Eidus. Shemaim and Aretz is not kosher for Eidus. So let your world leaders, the leaders among the nations of the world, come and testify. Yavo Nimrod v'Yoed be'Avram shelo avad avodas kochavim. Let Nimrod come and testify that Avram, even at the pain of death, refused to worship idols. Yavo Lavan v'Yoed be'Yakov shelo nechshad al hagazel. Let Lavan come and testify that he had a son-in-law living with him for 20 years and didn't take a thing, didn't take a little bobby pin. Tavo Eishes Potifera v'Toid beYosef shelo nechshad al haver. Let Potiphar's wife come and testify that Yosef was chaste. Yavo Nebuchadnezzar v'Yod b'Chanani Mishal v'Azariah shelo yishtachvu l'tzelem. Let Nebuchadnezzar come and testify that the Jews of his court refused, even at the pain of death, as we know. They too were thrown in a furnace, that they refused to bow down to his statue. Yavo Daryavish v'Yod b'Daniel shelo bitel es atfila. Let King Darius of the Persians come and testify that Daniel never once failed to daven. Yavo Beldad Hashuchi v'Tzofar Hanamasi v'Elifas HaTeimani v'Yudu Ben B'Yisol Shekimus Kol HaTorah Kula. And let these three friends of Eov, who were Gentile leaders, let them come and testify. We don't know exactly when Eov lived, but sometime during the biblical period. Let them testify that the Jews of their time fulfilled the entire Torah. Shenamar Yitznu Eidehem v'Yitzdaku. And this goes back to the pasuk that we saw yesterday from Yeshaya, that they will give forth their testimony and they will justify the Jewish people's right to be the victors in the end of days. Amr lefanav Ribbono shel olam tenalanu merosh v'nasena. Okay, fine. So the Ovdei Avodah Zara have lost that argument. Now they're going to try a different tack. They say, okay, Hashem, we understand why the Jews deserve to be rewarded, but give us another chance. Give us a chance to make it up to you so that we can get something in the next world as well. So Amar Lahen HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shoitim Sheba'olam. Mi shetarach be'erev Shabbos yochel b'Shabbos. Mi shelo tarach be'erev Shabbos meichan yochel b'Shabbos. Famous phrase. He says, foolish ones. He says, oh, he who toils on the Sabbath eve will have what to eat on the Sabbath. But he who does not toil and plays games on the Sabbath eve and doesn't work, what will he have to eat on the Sabbath? We're at the Sabbath now. We're at Olam Haba now. It's too late, Chevra. But God says, nevertheless, I won't turn you down completely. I have a very, very simple, easy mitzvah. It's called sukkah. You guys go ahead. Let's see if you can fulfill this mitzvah. And let this prove one way or the other. Now, we know that sukkah has this universal theme to it, that it is a mitzvah that will be adopted by all of the other nations. It's the Haftorah that we read on Sukkot, that in the Messianic age, the other nations will come to celebrate Sukkot. And this is really what the Gemara is referring to. But why Sukkot? Why is its universality? So you've obviously been listening to the drashas and remember everything that I've talked about over the last 5 or 6 years on Sukkot, about this whole idea about the Gentiles and their relationship to the Sukkah holiday. But in any event, you'll see in just a second. So umi matzis amar tachi. But the Gemara says, how can you say this? That Hashem is going to allow them to do a mitzvah in Olam Haba. V'ha'amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi ma'idich siv asher anochi mitzavacha hayom. What does the Torah mean when it says, these mitzvahs that I am commanding you today? Why today? Hayom la'asosam v'lo lamachar la'asosam. You can only do them in this world, not in the next world. Hayom la'asosam v'lo yom litol schar. And furthermore, you only get to do them today, but you don't see the reward until the next world. So how can they do a mitzvah in the next world? But the Gemara says, you're right. there's no legitimacy to the performance of this mitzvah, but Hashem doesn't want to create strife between himself and his creations. If this is their grievance, give us another chance, Hashem's not going to turn them away completely. He'll say, okay, fine, try to do this mitzvah, and we'll see what happens. Why is it called an easy mitzvah? Because it doesn't cost anything to put up a sukkah. You see, this was before the prefab sukkah days, where people made huge cottage industries out of the sukkah business, right? But the truth is, this is really the whole point of the universal nature of the sukkah. The sukkah is made out of the discarded material of your harvest. And that's really sort of one of the messages of sukkahs. You take the schach, which is the husks and the straw and the hay, the discards of your produce, after you've reaped and harvested everything, you're left with a bunch of discards in the field, and you take that and make your sukkah out of it. That's why Hashem made the holiday in the fall, right? And it represents a whole bunch of different things about the whole idea about that nothing is for naught in this world. It's the idea that even though the Jews were viewed as discards, they are really the essential nature of the world. There's so many messages that are there for the other nations of the world. So miyad kol echad ve'echad notel v'holech v'osa sukkah b'rosh gago v'hakadosh baruch hu maktir aleim chama b'tekufas Tammuz. So what's going to happen is that every nation will go ahead and construct a sukkah on its rooftop. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make it extremely hot as midsummer, even though this is the time when things are generally cooling off. You guys can't relate to it. We're shivering in our sukkahs in Toronto, but I can tell you in California and in Yerushalayim and in Tel Aviv, it can get really hot over sukkahs. And this is before the times of air conditioning. So it becomes very uncomfortable. And so what happens? And at that point, everyone, all of these idolaters who are trying to fulfill this mitzvah will get fed up, and they'll kick the sukkah and leave because of the heat. Shenemar nenataka es mosarosemo v'nashlicha mimenu avosemo. The pasuk in Tehillim says, "We shall remove the bonds from off ourselves, and we will thrust off the ropes." So, frek the Gemara makdir v'ha'amart ena kadosh baruch hu ba betrunim briosav. So what do you mean? Why is Hashem going to make it so hot? I thought the whole idea was not to create strife between himself and his creation. So why is he testing them in this way? So the Gemara answers, Mishum di Yisrael nami zimnin demashchalahut kufas tamuz ad chaga bavilut zara. The answer is because the whole purpose of this exercise is to demonstrate to the other nations how you're not capable of adopting the mitzvahs the way the Jewish people do. The Jewish people accept the mitzvah of sukkah and they sit in it, whether it's hot, whether it's uncomfortable, whether it's not. And look at you. You kick the sukkah and you leave. So that's the whole point of this exercise, to make that contrast so that the rest of the world will understand why the Jews stand out. But the Gemara says, but wait a minute, V'hama Rava mitzdar patr min sukkah. But why should they be held to blame? After all, even a Jew who sits in a sukkah, if it's too hot, he's patr from sukkah. If it's too cold or if it's too hot, you're patr from sitting in the sukkah. So what's wrong with them leaving the sukkah? So the Gemara answers, Nehida patr be'ute mi mevati. Granted, they are allowed to leave, but they leave with such disgust and disdain. That's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes them to task. So miyad, you see, so when you leave the sukkah because you're shivering, right, in the sukkah, this coming sukkahs, you should do it with tremendous sadness. Nebuch, I can't sit in the sukkah. Don't say, oh, Baruch Hashem, I can't sit in the sukkah, let's go inside, right? So miyad HaKadosh Baruch Hu yoshev u'mesachek aleim. So it's at that moment when Hashem will sit and laugh at the other nations. In other words, he will be filled with mirth, not as a bully laughter, not like, ha ha, look at you losers. That's not what Hashem is thinking to himself. But he's thinking about the, number one, the human comedy. That the human nature is so ironic. That's one of the reasons for the laughter. But also the laughter is, thankfully, my plan has been realized for creation. That now the whole world can actually justify why the Jewish people have been chosen, and we've come to fruition of the whole plan of creation. That's Hashem's laughter, is a laughter of joy. So Shenamar Yoshev Bashamayim Yitzchak v'goymer, as it says, Hashem will sit in heaven and laugh upon or at the other nations. Amar Rav Yitzchak ein schok lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu ela osa hayom bilvad. And Rav Yitzchak says that's the only day that Hashem will allow himself to fill his mouth with laughter. So Ika demasni lahad Rav Yitzchak ahad detanya Rav Yossi Omer. So some say that Rav Yitzchak said it about another eschatological event, in other words, a future world event that will happen where Hashem will laugh. That the Gemara, there's another brisa that says that in the future, in the Messianic age or post-Messianic age, all of the world will come to convert to Judaism. But how is that possible? The brisa says that we don't accept converts in the Messianic age out of a fear that they're doing it for ulterior motives. Yeah, now you want to convert, now that the Jews have everything, right? And that's the reason why they didn't accept converts during the reign of David HaMelech and King Solomon, because they were the most powerful, they were the superpower of the Middle East. So there was a suspicion that if you were coming to convert, it was for personal gain and not to serve Hashem. So Ela shenasu gerim gerur l'manichem tefillin b'Hashem tefillin b'zra oseim tzitzis b'vigdei mezuzah b'pischayim. So the answer is, it's not that they're going to be legally accepted as converts, but they're going to, put on tefillin and tzitzis, like these Jews for Yashka, right? But this time they're going to not do it for Yashka, they'll do it for the real. But they're not halachically Jews. They're all going to come. They'll come around the kotel and they'll say, Hine ma tovu manayim. In other words, they're all going to come and they're going to say, we want to be Jews, and we're going to act like Jews, and we're going to put on tefillin and tzitzis and all of these other things, and they'll do the hora and everything great, right? So the Gemara says, but this is what's going to happen. Kevin sharon milchemes Gog umagog, omer lehen al ma bosem. But then the great apocalyptic war that ushers the Messianic age is going to arrive. In other words, you see from this commentary that this event, that the nations of the world will attach themselves to the Jews, is happening even before Mashiach is finally here and everything's been settled. It could happen even this week, right? People like John Hagee and all of these other people, they want to attach themselves to the Jewish people. It's already starting. So they're going to come, and all of a sudden the apocalyptic war will come to the Middle East, and all of the nations, Gog and Magog, is going to bring everyone to attack Israel. And these non-Jews who want to be like Jews are going to say, they're going to say to these enemies, why have you come to the Holy Land? And they're going to say, well, we've come to fight Omrim Lo al Hashem ve'al Mashiach, as the pasuk says, we're coming to fight God and His Messiah. Shenamar lama ragshu goyim ulumim yehegurik v'goymer. As it says, why are you nations toiling for naught? Nor is it going to attack the Jewish people? And it says, Al Hashem ve'al Mashiach, to fight against God and His Messiah. So at that point, all of these Jewish wannabes, these wannabe Jews, are b'cholechad menatek mitzvahs v'holech shenamar nenatkas moser osemo v'nashlicha mimenu avosemo. Everyone's going to say, it was nice to sing the hora and dance the hora. Now we're gonna skedaddle, and so they're going to take off their tefillin and take off their tzitzis. And Tosfos even points out, nenatka es moser osemo, will remove our bonds, the bonds of tefillin, right? And we'll remove our ropes, the strings of tzitzis. We're going to take that off. They'll leave it at the kotel, and they'll hightail it out of there back to wherever they came from. So V'Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev u'Mesachik, and that's when Hashem will laugh. Shene'amar Yoshev b'Shamayim Yitzchak v'Goymer. And Amar Rav Yitzchak ein lo laHakadosh Baruch Hu schok ela oso hayom bilvad. And that's where Rav Yitzchak said that God will be filled with laughter only on that day. That's the only time that Hashem laughs. But the Gemara now says, how can you say that Hashem is only going to laugh one time in all of history? V'ha'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Shteimes Reishos Havi Hayom. Listen to this fascinating statement. Rav taught that the day is a 12-hour day. Let's say 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., right? So Shalosh Harishonos HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev V'Osek B'Torah. During the first 3 hours of the day, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., when business opens, God's studying Torah. He's modeling for us what we're supposed to do as balabatim. First 3 hours of the day, study Torah until the office opens up. Shniyos Yoshe v'danis kola olam kula. From 9 to noon, God is then sitting in judgment of the entire world. Kevin sheroa shenischayv olam kliya omi mekisei adin v'yoshev al kisei rachamim. He sees that the world is undeserving even to continue existing, and so therefore he has to switch from his seat of judgment to his seat of compassion and mercy in order to be able to sustain the world. Shlishiyos yeshuv v'zanis kol ha'olam kulo mikarnei re'eim ve'ad beitzei kinim. And then from noon to 3, he sits and he distributes and allots provision for every single creature in the world, from the largest creature known as the re'eim, the horns of the re'eim, until the eggs of the lice. But Rashi says this is not the standard kinim, who do not produce out of lice, but this is a separate species, and it's unclear the difference between kinim and beitzei kinim. But in any event, the smallest little insect. Revi'iyos yoshev v'mesachikim livyasam. And for the last 3 hours, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., as it were, God is frolicking and laughing with the Leviathan. You know, he goes to the racquetball club with the Leviathan, and they basically play it out for the last 3 hours of the workday. Okay? Shenamar Livyasan Zeh, but he doesn't take a lunch hour. It's interesting. Shenamar Livyasan Zeh Yatzarta L'Sachikbo. As it says, you've created the Leviathan, and we just read this in Baruch Nafshi yesterday, you created the Leviathan to play or frolic or be mirthful with. Amar of Nachman Bar Yitzchak in Briosov Misachek Val Briosov Eino Misachek. So really the question is, the word Misachek is to be filled with laughter, right, or to laugh. So if that's the question, so the question is, if you're telling me, Rav Yitzchak, that God only laughs one day when he sees the nations falling short, what about every single day God is laughing with the Leviathan as they're playing together? So, and by the way, what does that even mean, that God is playing with the Leviathan? Really what it means is, in a metaphorical sense, is that God is rejoicing over his creation, that everything is coming to fruition, and the Leviathan is sort of the surrogate sort of component of creation that represents Hashem's divine plan. But the point is that you see that God is laughing every single day to rejoice over his creation.
That's what we say when we leave the sukkah. We should say Orosha Livyatan.
That's Orosha Livyatan. That's after Livyatan is slaughtered. Here the Livyatan is still alive in Shemayim.
It's supposed to be a pseudo.
There's definitely a relationship between the two ideas. But Orosha Livyatan is that everything was brought to fruition. The ore, the skin of the Livyatan, again, is the discard, just like the sukkah is made out of discarded material.
I'm just trying to say that the whole concept that we're saying here, first we started with sukkah, and we moved over to Leviathan, and it's funny how the Leviathan and the sukkah, we have that connection.
Yeah. So anyway, so the answer the Gemara says is that there's two types of laughter. One is God laughing with his creations, and the other one is God laughing at his creations. When God is laughing at the irony of the human condition, that only happens at the end of days, when he's able to laugh at the idolatrous nations and rejoice over the ascendancy of the Jewish people. But to laugh with creation, God is laughing always, every day with creation. Amalei Rav Achel Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak miyom shecharv beis hamikdash ein schok lahakadosh baruch hu. But this laughter with the Leviathan is only until the Churban. But once the temple was destroyed, God stopped laughing. Uminolan deleka schok. How do you know? Ileimen b'dichsiv vayikra Hashem Elokim tzavakos bayom hahu levechi ulemisped ulekarcha v'goymer. Well, one answer could be is that there's a pasuk in Yeshaya that says that God declared that on that day of destruction there would be crying and eulogizing, etc. But Dilma hahu yoma v'sulo, but maybe it was only on the day of Churban, but afterwards God could commence laughing. Ela dichsiv imishkachechi Yerushalayim tishkach yamini tidbak l'shoni l'chiki im lo ezkarechi. Maybe from the pasuk, the famous pasuk of Eshkachechi Yerushalayim. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, God can never forget Jerusalem, so he must be in a constant state of sadness. But the Gemara says, no, Dilma shechahu dileka avol schok mi'ha'ika. This is a very profound statement. You have to really let it absorb into your kishkas. What the Gemara is saying is that just because you remember the destruction of Yerushalayim every day doesn't mean you can't laugh. You can contain both. Why can't Hashem contain both? He could always remember how glorious Yerushalayim was and still Laugh every day. So ela miha, but rather it's from here. Hechashese me'olam acharish es apak v'goymer. So it's really based on this pasuk in Yeshaya, that God says, I will be silent. I'm not going to allow my laughter to emit from my mouth so long as the temple is destroyed. That's God's vow. So then the question becomes, if God's not playing around with the Leviathan anymore, so berevi'iyos ma'ovid, what is Hashem doing during those last 3 hours? So Yoshev u'malame tinoko shel beis Rabban Torah. And I almost wanted to burst out crying when I saw Rashi this morning. I don't think it ever registered with me before. God is sitting and learning Torah with tinoko shel beis Rabban. What does that mean? It means the tinoko shel beis Rabban who passed away when they were still children. What happens to them? Hashem studies Torah with them in Shamayim. That's the way Rashi understands this Gemara. So there's a purpose. All of those children who died before they could live their lives properly, they died with purpose so that they could be part of Hashem's Beis Medrash in Shamayim. It's what a powerful message. Shenemar esmi yored de'ah ve'esmi yavin shemua gemulei mechala v'atikei mishadayim. And the Gemara explains the pasuk, L'mi yored de'ah, l'mi yavin shemua, l'gemulei mechala v'atikei mishadayim. That it says, who shall God give instruction of knowledge, and who shall God allow to understand? Those who have been recently weaned from milk and recently had been suckling at the breast. In other words, these small children who died. Umeikara man hava migmar lahu. So who was learning with these children before the Churban, when God was frolicking with the Leviathan? Ibayasema mitatron, v'ibayasema hava ha'avid. One answer is Matatron, Metatron, the very famous archangel of the world, which we've discussed. We won't be able to discuss it today, but God has this mega angel that he sort of is the angel of the world. And so if you could say that Metatron was the one who studies with the children before the Churban, or you could say that Hashem does both. He frolics with the Leviathan at the same time as learning with the children. They're not mutually exclusive. So then the Gemara says, Uvalel Yomai Avid. Okay, you've explained what God does during the 12 hours during the day. What does he do during the corresponding 12 hours at night? He's not sleeping, right? So what is he doing? So one answer is that he's replicating at night what he does during the day. The ibayis ema rochev al kruv kal shalo v'shat bishmona asar elef olamas. Another answer is that he goes on a chariot made of one of his light angels, sort of like this amazing angelic rocket ship, and he soars out through all the 18,000 worlds that God has created, and he goes out and sort of scopes everything else that is out there in the world, these 18,000 worlds. You know, it's a big universe when you think about it, so it's not surprising that God should take the night off every night and fly around and go to that nebula and that galaxy and that whatchamacallit. Shenemar rochev elokim ribosayim alfei rechev elokim ribosayim alfei shan'an. Al tikri shan'an ela she'inan. That God's chariot is the 2 myriads, which is 20,000, and then alfei, the 2,000s, shan'an, which I don't know how it translates, but the Gemara says, do not read it as shan'an, but rather she'enan, that the 2,000 that are not. Basically, it's 20,000 subtract 2,000, and that's how we get the number 18,000.
So is this saying there's life elsewhere? What's he doing?
Who knows? Maybe there is life. Listen,
why would he be going all over the universe?
In the ancient world, every single star has sentience and consciousness. So, and that may be an acceptable belief today as well. The idea that every single star that Hashem creates is like a malach, but it has its own sentience, and so Hashem goes to Alpha Centauri and he goes to X5723 and says, "Yeah, hey, how's it going, guys?"
You're saying even if there's no life there,
even if there is no life there, the star itself, the planets, everything has purpose. Everything is a form of life in a sense, right?
They also have existence.
They have existence. Existence itself is yeah, that's right.
They just discovered water on Mars.
There you go. So anyway, Okay, so it's not just little green men. It's just it's everything that's out there. There is no raya one way or the other whether there's life on other planets. There very well could be. It's not a stira. It's not a challenge to the Torah in any way, shape, or form. So the Gemara now says, the Iboy is saying, I'll give you another explanation what God does at night. Yoshev v'shomei ashira mipi chayos. God is listening to the big iPod in the sky. He's got his earbuds on, and he's listening to the beautiful music of the chayos, of these angelic beings who are singing the most amazing music for the entire night. That's what God's doing the entire evening. Shenamar yomam yitzaveh Hashem chazdo uvalayla shiru imi. That during the day God gives forth His kindness, and at night, sing with me. Let's go to a concert together. Let's enjoy. Amar Rabbi Levi kol haposek midivrei Torah va'osek b'divrei sicha ma'achil lo gachalei resamim. Rabbi Levi says anyone who interrupts his Torah study in order to engage in mundane conversation is fed very hot coals. In other words, we pour hot coals down his throat. Like, what are you doing? You're wasting yourself. Shenamar hakotfim maloach alei siach v'shoresh resamim lachma. As it says, those who cut short the maloach, which is something that's very tasty, which is another way of explaining Torah, for the sake of siach, for the sake of conversation, are fed these very hot coals. Anyone who studies Torah at night, the next day, God will place a string of comeliness upon them, which means that people will look at them and say, there's something special about you. There's something that draws me to you. In other words,
radiate, like you'll
glow a certain attractiveness because of your Torah study the night before. Shenamar yomam yitzava Hashem chazda uvalayla shiru imi. Matam yomam yitzava Hashem chazda mishum debalayla shiru imi. That the way you read the pasuk is, why is it that God will give forth His chesed upon a person during the day? Because the night before He sang words of Torah with Hashem. Ika da amri amaresh lakish kol osik b'torah ba'olam hazeh domi l'layla. Some say that it's more metaphorical, that anyone who studies Torah in this world, which is compared to night, will merit to have this comeliness upon them in the world to come, which is like day. Using the same pasuk. Amar of Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Mai dichsiv vatase adam kidegei hayom keremes lamoshel bo. What does the pasuk mean when it says that you made man like the fish of the ocean, like a creature that is unruled? So lama nimshalu b'nei adam kidegei hayam. Why is man compared to a fish? Lomar lecha ma dagim shebayam keven shalom liyabasha miyad mesim af b'nei adam keven sheparshim divrei Torah min hamitzvos miyad mesim. One explanation is that just like a fish needs water to survive, so too a Jew needs Torah and mitzvahs in order to survive. If you don't do Torah and mitzvahs, you're like a fish out of water. You won't survive. Davar acher ma dagim shebayam keven shekadra leim chama miyad mesim kach b'nei adam keven shekadra leim chama miyad mesim. Another explanation is just like fish, if you bear down upon them too much heat, the fish die, right? Excess of heat, even when the fish are in water, they die. So too, human beings, if you bear down upon them excessive heat, they will die. Now, what does this mean? It can be explained both on the physical, mundane level, and it can be explained on the spiritual level. The Rabbi Chanina taught everything, any affliction that befalls man is by divine decree, unless man exposes himself to extreme cold or extreme heat. You go out in the cold without a coat and you get sick and you get pneumonia and you die. That's not God's fault, that's your fault. If you go out into the Sahara Desert without protection and you dehydrate and die, that's not God's fault, that's your fault. Who told you to do such a silly thing? It's like committing suicide. As the pasuk says, extreme cold and extreme hot is the pathway of a crooked person, but he who wishes to guard his soul will distance himself from those things. So therefore, a person has to be careful not to expose himself to excessive heat. V'iba yasema, another answer could be la'olam haba, that it's a spiritual message. K'der Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Amar Reb Shimon ben Lakish, Ein Gehenim la'asilava la'kadosh baruch hu motzicham min artika u'maktir rishayim nidonim ba v'tzadikim misrapim ba. That in the future world, the Ramban explains that what Reish Lakish is saying is follows. There's no Gehenim in the world to come. Now we know that there is such a construct called Gehenim. But Gehenim is where people go when they die. But we're not talking about where people go when they die. We're talking about what happens after resurrection, after Tchiyas HaMesim. What's going to happen in that future world that doesn't exist right now. So everyone agrees, even Reish Lakish, that when you die, you can either go to Gan Eden or Gehenim. But when the Tchiyas HaMesim and your soul is pulled out of Gehenim or Gan Eden, and you're reunited with your body, what about people who still need to endure further punishment? According to Reish Lakish, and by the way, it's a machlokes, Rabbi Yochanan disagrees, but according to Reish Lakish, there's no more Gehenim. There's no more purgatory, so to speak, and a special realm of punishment, but rather Hashem will pull the sun out of its holder, out of its scabbard, or out of its filter, and will shine the sun with its full intensity. Again, this is not physically, but it's metaphysically, that what's going to happen, that this extreme light will cause the righteous to heal and will cause the wicked to incinerate. Rishaim nidonim ba dichsiv ki hinei hayom ba boer katanur dehayu chol zedim v'cholosei risha kash v'liato samayom haba amar Hashem tzivakos asher lo ya'azov lahem shoresh va'anaf lo shoresh ba'olam hazeh v'lo anaf la'olam haba. The pasuk is indicative of this pasuk in Malachi. The day is coming that will burn like an oven. And all of those sinners and all of those evildoers will turn into stubble and will be ignited.
So they'll die again.
And there'll be no remnant of them at all, neither in this world nor in the next.
Rabbi, they die again.
They'll die again. That's right. According to this Gemara, sometimes people will be resurrected and only to endure final judgment of death.
Wow.
And tzadikim misrapim b'dichsiv v'zarcha lachem yirei shemi shemesh tzedakah u'marpei bichnafel. And the righteous will be healed by it, because through this extreme light, they will be healed, as the pasuk says, through the shining of this new sun, the righteous will be healed. Not only that, but they'll adorn themselves with it, as it says, you will go out and you will adorn yourselves like fattened calves. We're almost done. I'll give you another reason why people are compared to fish. Just like fish, there's big fish and there's small fish. The big fish eat the small fish. So too, it's dog eat dog. It's fish eat fish. The bigger fish in this world eat the smaller fish, and if it weren't for government regulations that put limits on murder and on human exploitation and trafficking, everyone would eat each other alive. And that's why the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, be very careful to pray always for the welfare of the government, because without a proper, solid government, people will swallow each other alive. Look what's happening in Venezuela today. Anyway, the point is, and by the way, this is codified in the Gemara. The Magen Avraham quotes it. It's a mystery why there are certain shuls in Minyanim that don't say on at least a weekly basis a prayer for the government. Okay, you don't want to say a prayer for the state of Israel because you're not a Zionist, you're anti-Zionist. Mela, okay, we'll have that discussion. But if you live in Canada, you live in the United States, how can you not say a tefillah for the welfare of the government? Whether you agree with the politics or not is irrelevant.